Minecraft has gone through so much change since it first came out, and most of it has been very positive. However, there are still some that I think desperately need changing. So today I'm going to show you the 10 most important things I think need changing. Number 1 is villagers, and let me just show you what I mean by that. So I've logged on to the SMP I play on in my Centurion series to go look at some villager trading halls. Now there are currently no villagers here, but let's just take a look about how they were planned to spend their lives. Everyone is trapped in a hole, one after the other, just forced to trade for their entire life. And that's the same with this one as well. Now those are only 2 examples, and there are many others on this server. Another thing is, when you breed them, you often just trap them in a wooden box with lots of beds and expect them to do their thing, as also seen by whatever this is. Now Mojang has already tried to combat some villager problems by introducing it so you can only get certain trades in certain biomes. I don't think that this is a solution, as even though villagers are very OP, they are extremely useful for players like myself who play on long-term SMPs that constantly need to get new gear or blocks. What I am suggesting is that you have to give them ethical living ways. For example, you'd have to protect this village from the outside, and however they still have room to breathe in their houses, and maybe they could even make it that if you give them an ethical living standard, they actually give you better deals for your trades. I just think that trapping them all in a 1x1 hole is a bit too easy. So for example, if you chose to trap them in a 1x2 hole, they would still give you trades, but they would be more expensive than if you put a wall around this village and helped it sustain its ecosystem. Then it would give you cheaper trades. The next one I have is with the Elytra. Now, when scrolling lots of Reddit posts and other people's opinions to get some views on the Elytra, lots of people said they didn't like rocket boosting. Rocket boosting is basically where you just propel yourself infinitely to stay in the air and can fly anywhere. This is as opposed to when the Elytra was first added, and when it was purely a glider where you could do things like this, meaning they only really got you short distances and didn't really let you actually fly anywhere, and you'd still have to walk a lot. I don't think rocket propelling should be removed, as it is extremely useful for people like me on SMPs who often need to travel far distances really quickly. I actually think that Elytras have the opportunity to be better, because I however think Elytras have the opportunity to be better. For example, let's put down this anvil. You can enchant your Elytra with breaking and mending. Basically, you can make it so your Elytra lasts a lot longer. I think there is an opportunity to make these enchantments a lot cooler. For example, and this is literally just off the top of my head, instead of using rockets, a solution could be every so often you get a propel that you can use that has a cooldown. Or, now I don't really have any ideas for these enchantments, which is why this point is a little not developed. However, I think they have a really cool opportunity to add more features to the Elytra and make it something that isn't just used for flying everywhere. For example, a speed enchantment, maybe, where your Elytra can speed up depending on what your enchantment is. So this would be at the speed, just normal speed, then speed 3, you could go a lot faster. Number 3, and this is perhaps the thing that I want changing the most. Let's hop back onto Centurion so I can explain. Now let's look at my shop and ignore the trees and the statue, they're just there. You can see I've used lots of different blocks, from the gradient from concrete to terracotta to spruce to different variants of shelves and trapdoors and fences, all the way to the interior where there's lots of nether blocks and different designs for the floor. You'll notice there's lots of different blocks involved, which is a very big problem. Not because there's lots of blocks, it's brilliant that we have all these blocks we can use. However, the little ones, like shelves, fences and trapdoors, and even stairs, I don't use a lot of, which means I don't need a lot in my inventory. However, things the wall blocks, I need loads of them in my inventory the whole time. And the inventory is only this big. And it has stayed this big since Minecraft was first a thing. It has never been expanded. I think they've tried to combat this many different times. For example, shulker boxes. However, let's see, I want something from this shulker box. Now usually I have a mod where you can see what's in it very easily. However, it usually says something like enderpearl, 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 and 16 more. Which means to find out what's in it, you have to place it down, you have to take out what you want, you have to mine the box, put it back, then do whatever you want with this block, then get the box back out, place it down, put it in, mine the box. That's not efficient whatsoever. You could also argue bundles help. However, bundles only really help with junk like this. Let's try clear up my inventory with a bundle, shall we? They don't really help, because first of all, you can only put 64 items in them. Second of all, plus 28. How do you get to that plus 28? You have to take everything out first. If you don't take something out, you can't get to it. So that doesn't really help either. The solution to inventory management is simply just make it bigger. My personal opinion on it would be add an extra row and column. Bingo bango, done. And you could still keep the 9 slots in the hotbar, that doesn't need to change. But it's such a simple change that would make life so much easier. Next point I would like to talk about is tools, and are they really efficient? And also, common sense. Let's mine glass with efficiency 5. Painfully slow. Right? First of all, it's glass. It's known for being very breakable. However, now, let's mine stone with efficiency 5. Quite quick, to be honest. Quite quick. Now let's mine deep slate. Slower than stone, but quicker than glass. How does that make sense? Glass should shatter immediately. Deep slate, this hard rock, breaks easier than glass. I don't understand how that makes sense. But now, let's try it with haste 2, efficiency 5. So let's power our beacon up. Now, glass. You can barely notice a difference. Stone. Literally instant. Faster than creative mode. Deep slate. Still slow, but faster than before. In my opinion, this needs changing. First of all, glass should be instant mine. Stone should remain instant mine. I like this. Deep slate should also be instant mine. Not because I think it's logical, but because I used to, if I'm honest, enjoy quickly mining for diamonds with a beacon, just doing this so quickly, while also getting stone, diamonds, and all that good stuff, and also getting a massive hole quickly. If you want to mine now, you do it the slow way. So I think for everyone's state of mind, this needs to be made instant mine, and this should be because it's just logical, and I can actually show you how I think this should work. Let's mine stone. Instant. As before, instant, as long as with all the stone variants like andesite. Now let's mine tough. No, now let's mine deep slate. Still not instant. However, let's switch to a netherite pickaxe. And it's instant. This, in my opinion, is one way to do it. Make instant mine deep slate a netherite pickaxe exclusive. Or make it depending on what you make your beacon out of. Because at the moment, iron, you can get iron farms. Obviously, you're going to make it out of iron as opposed to diamonds. But what if you made a diamond, or even for some reason a netherite beacon, you then had access to instant mine deep slate? Because I think that would just make sense, and it would also give you a reason it would also give a reason for you to be able to make beacons out of different resources. So this could work in that emerald, gold, and iron, or stay the same, but netherite and diamond either just allow you to instant mine deep slate instantly, or they give you a power like haste 3 instead of 2 that can give you that effect. And as mentioned before, glass should just be instant mine regardless of your effect. And this is not just me who thinks this. When I was doing research for this, so many people have been suggesting this change. Now here's a really simple one, and I've been kind of demonstrating it throughout this whole video. Let's walk forward. Okay, it takes a long time in creative mode to do anything like that. And often, when I'm building and flying in creative, I need to go from large distances and I need to do a world edit selection. And this is mainly done through typing in position 1 and then flying to wherever you want it to be. So if I wanted to select all of this, I have to fly all the way over here, which takes a very long time, then fly down and then dig down to wherever you want. It takes a long time, and then you can run your command. All I'm suggesting is we make an option to increase your flying speed, and I think the most easy way to do this is hold down Control and then do it with your scroll wheel. Similar to how in spectator mode, if you scroll with your scroll wheel, your flying speed will increase and you will go a lot faster. And you can even slow it right down to the point where you're not really moving. I think really simple change that would help so many people. Here's another one, and I know this is so much easier said than done. Trust me, I know. But I think they need to find a way, and I mean, they need to make Bedrock and Java finally compatible with Redstone. Because they work differently, and first of all, it's annoying for the player, because you have to design a new thing. Second of all, if you go onto YouTube, I've spent so long trying to find a Bedrock version of a farm when it only comes up in Java, and vice versa. It takes huge amounts of time. It's very annoying, and you have to then adjust it for that version. So I know this would be hard because everyone in Bedrocks or Java, depending on what they go for, would probably stop working. The Redstone, it would stop working all of your old worlds, which is an issue. However, I think in the long term, it's probably something that just needs to happen. Now, this also links back to the previous point a bit. However, in Java, I can change the version I'm playing on really easily, right? For example, I'm now on Minecraft Beta 1.2, and it was that easy. In Bedrock, you can't change versions, which is annoying because of things like if they wanted to add that old change, a Bedrock option could be they could just keep that world in that version. Or even if they just want to go have a look at memory lane and the old versions, they can't do that. They're forced to update. And that is one of the reasons that put me off playing Bedrock. Because I like to be able to choose when I update things. It also kind of works for servers. For example, in a server, sometimes for Centurion, for example, when we were updating to a new version, I kept it behind by quite a few weeks just to wait for all of the mods to update. I know in Bedrock you don't have mods, but in order to make sure everything's compatible and goes well, you sometimes don't want it to update automatically. Another one that I really want changed is sponges. Now, sponges work like this. I will spam sponges right now. Everywhere, even in the top of the ocean, spamming, spam. Oh wow, it only got rid of that. Water sponges got a huge nerf. I can't remember what update it was, but they just don't work well enough anymore. It does nothing. If you just do a line, oh wow, look, we've got rid of this. I'm just suggesting they just get rid of it in a much easier way. Like, you place it, it actually gets rid of all this water instead of it just coming back. Instead of you having to spam so much sponge just to get rid of, what's that? Literally nothing. Now, the next one is something I don't think people really think about, however, I have a very strong opinion for it. So let's set the time to midnight, and it goes dark. We can put camera on. And let's spawn a mob that you're probably really familiar with. A zombie. Another one that you're probably really familiar with. A skeleton. Now, let's introduce some more mobs. Let's spawn in a husk. So with the husk and the zombie, do you notice anything similar? Okay. Let's spawn in a bogged. This is a new mob that got added. Notice anything similar? Let's now spawn in a stray. Notice anything similar? Do you see where I'm going with this? Now let's spawn in the parched. Do you see where I'm going with this? Now let's spawn in the drowned. Do you see where I'm going with this? With all of these mobs, they are all different variants of zombie and skeleton, which is fine, right? Zombie and skeleton are brilliant. However, when looking for new mobs, I think we need to start looking at the more unique mobs. For example, as much as I hate to say it, the Phantom is a really unique mob, and I think it's quite cool. As much as I hate them, I think they're unique, and I quite like it for that. Things like the Guardian, there's only one variant of them, and there'll probably never be a second, so they're pretty unique. Then, of course, you've got the Piglin, which is basically a zombie in another. So what I'm suggesting is when adding new mobs, they should try be something that aren't just variants of zombie and skeletons, because we have so many of them. They're not really new mobs, they're kind of just retextured other ones that you find in different biomes. So while that's cool, I'd quite like to see more unique mobs. Now this is one that I've seen on a Reddit post, and I'm going to post it here on the screen now because I think it's actually a pretty cool idea and I like it. So, let me explain a bit further. In your enchanting table, you have to input an item and lapis. For example, let's get a sword. I want to enchant this. Fine. Sword in. Lapis in. And then I can choose from all the enchantments available, and it's always lapis. I think it would be cool to have different things for lapis. So let's say you wanted water enchant. You wanted respiration. You would, instead of lapis for respiration, you would put it, for example, instead of lapis, you'd put in your helmet and prismarine crystals to show that, and then it would only give you water enchants. Let's say if you want fire aspect, you could put in your sword and blaze powder. Now, I'm obviously not saying this guarantees you'll get that enchant, but I'm saying that maybe it should just boost the chances of you getting that enchant. And it makes you have to work a lot more to get enchants than just find bookshelves. Now, I'll actually fly onto my base to show you another point. However, if we just look at my locator bar, you'll notice it has a head on. And that's because it just tells me if there's people online, which one is which through heads. I think that's a pretty cool change that I think should be added, just so you can see really who things are on the locator bar instead of having to guess. Right, my last point is very simple. You will notice this base has lots of glass in, and that's even more obvious actually if we come around the side here. So much glass. Now, I'm using the connected textures mod, meaning there's no grid pattern that is usually there on the glass. It is instead all smooth, and therefore benefits greatly. Let's take this texture pack off. Now from far back, looks the same. The minute you get up close, it looks so much worse to have this grid pattern all over your base everywhere. It just doesn't look right as well, because you wouldn't have this. You would always have the connected glass. It just needs improvement. And it even more needs improvement on if you've seen those massive glass works. I don't have any on this server to show you. However, people that do lots of glass work, it doesn't work without connected textures. It just won't look good. So, pretty simple fix. Make the textures connected. Literally that simple. Another nice change, and I've only actually just thought of this when I was about to do the outro. However, if you look in the bottom left-hand corner of my screen, you'll see a little speaker with a red cross against it. That means, so if I unmute myself, obviously single player world, you'll notice there's a microphone. That's because I had the proximity mod installed, where you basically have the voice chat inside the game. This, I think, it would be hard to add to the main game. However, I feel like it would be quite cool to add this to the main game, because it makes playing Minecraft so much better. Being able to just have quick interactions with people that you wouldn't usually. For example, if I log onto a server, someone flies past my base, I can just say hi to them, have a quick conversation, and then move on with my life. I wouldn't have done that usually, because I'd have to actually call them. And it also leads to so much impromptu, hilarious moments where you're kind of just doing something and then someone comes and scares you. Or they just bring up some quick thing that is, or they just bring up something unexpected that you can then immediately dive straight into. I think it's such a good feature. However, I am skeptical on whether or not it would work in the main game. Anyway, that's all of my suggestions today. If you agreed or disagreed with any or had your own suggestions, let me know in the comments down below. Thank you. Bye bye.